Uh, so I'll just present my views because it's just a view. Because really in education, unless one has tried to do something oneself and seen the results, I don't think one is really qualified. It's like an agricultural scientist to give gyan about how to grow crops, without really getting on the whiteboard and actually doing it. But I think that in my view, the way I see it now is the notion of homeschooling has come as a reaction to some of the excesses in the conventional or formal schooling system, and those excesses have been maybe on two or three fronts. One front is the fact that is the problem of fear of examination, the increase in competition in the child, and the third is the method of delivery, which is really rote learning, which by itself is not sufficient. So, and then of course there are lacunae in content by virtue of the fact that the syllabus just doesn't uh, contain that content that one would, let us say, feels is essential for the child. For instance, how to live in family, because finally, even if, whether they're a banker or an industrialist or a chartered accountant, they have to live in a family. So if education has to prepare one for human life, then the content should include all aspects of human life. So when we talk of homeschooling, what comes to my mind when you say it is, what are we trying to protect them from by keeping them at home, and what do we have as content and teaching to provide them. In homeschooling, we see two approaches. There are some people who have just let their children be and let them grow up at home. So that is home growing without going to school, but there is no schooling. So that the learning is happening uh, on its own in a natural process. So the child tends to pick up whatever it feels it is naturally inclined towards, and we have prevented it from going through the fear and the stress of formal schooling. Uh, but after having after once when we go through this content, it does seem that that by itself doesn't seem sufficient. um, Education for the child should be able to develop uh, all four aspects. Okay. The material, the behavioral, and the intellectual, at least till the intellectual, if not the spiritual. And so then one is looking at what kind of content do you need for these different dimensions. How are you going to deliver that content? What is the pedagogical method? What are the learning stages that children will have to go through? What are the learning theories that one will have to take into account? Because different children learn in different ways. Some may learn things logically, the others like to look and learn. Yeah. And so these, I think, things will have to be kind of really evaluated very properly. So if you look at it here in this frame, again the darshan kind of helps us. uh, I can rub this part because we've done this. We did the view, objective, and the essential nature. So one is the content. Now, what comes to my mind when we say content? We're looking at these four integral dimensions of human life: material, behavioral, intellectual, and let's say spiritual, or actually existential. Okay. Experiential. And I'll explain this later. But really, in the material dimension, there are two aspects in all of them. One is what we are calling as form and properties, which is the domain of modern science. So, in the material, what are the aspects that we have? We have the body. Uh, yeah, what are the material things that we encounter We have the body, and there's food and other things that we need to manufacture, and nature. For instance, we study the amoeba when we're in school. Are we going to use the amoeba anywhere in our lives? No. It is of no practical use. It's not going to help me get food or things, but it increases my appreciation of what nature is made of. So, which means that it is fulfilling some intellectual need to know nature. So, I think we'll have to really, I'm just trying to put for the very broad structure that coming to my mind right now is what are those aspects that we need so a child can understand nature and appreciate it better? What are those aspects that a child will need as skills so it can produce these things? Hmm? So, does it need to know farming? Does it need to know carpentry? So, one set of things in the material dimension is skills. Now, if the family we'll come to that later. First, let's just talk of the content. You're saying something. Yeah. So, awareness of the body, its form and properties. So, that includes health, the anatomy, the fact that we have a liver, a kidney, the heart. So you're aware of what happens in your body. Okay. Now this content can again can take elements from Ayurveda, it can take from modern science, all right, to understand health from a holistic perspective. What is the purpose this content is going to solve? So I think that's another question we need to ask. Is the content and its purpose? So it is going to help the child be aware and help the child maintain its own health. So the objective of learning about the anatomy of the body is that you can go ahead and maintain a healthy life. So that's my end objective. So that's how now I'm going to really tailor the content, right? So similarly, the skills that we will teach the child, what is it going to use for? It is going to use it for occupation to fulfill the material needs of the family. Now, what are the kind of things that human beings need? The list is probably 1,000, maybe 20,000 things that we need. I think each one of us uses more than 5,000 types of things, from little buttons to everything has to be manufactured, right? So, what is the fundamental content that we give them in a layered fashion uh, that can enable that? And really, the third thing is appreciation of the form and properties in nature. So, when we're looking at nature and the natural world, we have the fundamental subjects. We've got physics, we've got chemistry, we've got biology, and let's say we've got zoology, yeah, and maybe cosmology. So within the domain of Roop and Gun in material, all this will have to be included as general awareness for children. And then we'll have to have a specific way to find out which area the child is more interested in and give it that kind of an elective at an appropriate age. So that really is the second part, really the if you see other than content, the second is pedagogy. How will we deliver the message? And really, if you look at this, some delivery is going to come as information which it will have to memorize or learn, right? The other is it will have to see and or do and learn. Yeah. And the third is really reflect on internally. So pedagogy is the other thing. Hmm? The third is we'll have to understand learning theory to be able to come up with all this. Then we also need, so learning theory will also include learning stages. What are the stages of learning? For instance, if I'm teaching a 10-year-old, what is a 10-year-old man who has this Jivan Kriya capable of knowing and not capable of knowing? है ना? अभी वो कैलकुलस के लिए तैयार नहीं है. हम जबरदस्ती उसमें कैलकुलस डाल दे because we are working backward from some kind of standard that we set that if they need to know whatever differential equations in secondary engineering and 90% of India has to become engineers, then 8वीं कक्षा में उसको कैलकुलस डालो, उसको समझ ही नहीं आ रहा है वो क्या है. I mean, out of 1,005 are able to do it. Baki sab to bochak rahe hain. And that is one small part. So really, in learning theory, we're looking at learning stages, yeah, by age, or and also learning tendencies, different ways in which children learn. Like my daughter's tendency, she's listening. That'll bias her. Whatever. Some children, uh, like XYZ, they are very playful. And at this stage, her tendency, if I see, like we have two children at home, both are around 8.5 or 9. This one can't sit in one place for more than a moment. She seems to be a smart kid and she cannot sit and learn. We have another one who seems equally smart but is so fast at learning and memorizing and math and is so interested in studies and wants to do well. Now, this is a different tendency. The stage and age is the same, but the tendency is totally different. And a lot of people have done a lot of good work there. Like the Waldorf school that my daughter goes to has 4 kinds of children with 4 kinds of temperaments, and also parents who have different temperaments and how to really. So this is what learning theory would entail, and learning theory would also entail learning environment. That's another uh, aspect of education. And then the fourth one that we can probably really consider is a central part of the thing, that is the educator's role. So in the educator's role, what comes to my mind is their basic bhava, yeah, which we are calling as vatsalya. Is the educator really able to connect to that child and say, I'm here to help that child grow in these 4 dimensions? Are they aware, awakened enough for it? And something like that. So really, this clarity that the educator needs to have. So this is also again a part of the learning environment. So now, if we come back to the content, now again in content there are some things that are going to be in the domain of form and properties, which is Roop and Gun. For instance, the family, yeah, the whatever, the relationships, the purpose, the values. In the intellectual sphere, the Jivan or the self, its different abilities. Now, the purpose of the content in the Jivan abilities is to be able to develop this ability. So you have to develop the ability to image, right? For memory, for smriti, which like in our Vedic lineage, for instance, they excelled at smriti. He remembers so much, he'll just floor you. He gives one line, he gives you another line from another text. Sula deta hai. So really, in smriti, the chitta kshetra is expanding, not just expanding but developing in a particular way. And here the range in which the chitran can work, the ability for logic and the ability to go beyond logic, which is tricky. So what content can we give that can go beyond logic? So in the intellectual domain, really being able to develop the self, the chaitanya paksh. तो चैतन्य पक्ष का विकास होना चाहिए, है ना, व्यवहारिक पक्ष का विकास होना चाहिए, भौतिक पक्ष का विकास होना चाहिए, और इन सारों के जानकारी का विकास होना चाहिए, the information about all of it in terms of content. तो अभी इस कंटेंट को खोलेंगे तो then it will be how do you organize the content, है ना, content, purpose, and let us say organization. Yeah, how will we give it the holistic view? Because again, if you break it into small chapters, we're stuck with 12 different chapters. So the educator will have to have this holistic view. So now the educator decides that when I'm teaching mathematics or teaching physics, उसमें यदि जीवन का बात आ गया तो you should be able to go into the जीवन. तो educator का grade कितना चाहिए? The guy who's teaching physics should know that the physics he's teaching is to रूप and गुण और ये उसका स्वभाव धर्म और मैं जीवन हूँ, वो जो इतना चाहिए, नहीं तो कैसा पढ़ाएगा? वो तो फिर वैसे पढ़ा देगा, बोलो जीवन क्रिया 10 होते हैं, पांचवा क्रिया कौन सा है, वेरी गुड, 5 मार्क्स, वो फिर उधर ही जाएगा. सो इवन इफ यू हैव द कंटेंट, वो जो डिलीवरी सिस्टम है उसमें एजुकेटर का रोल, उसमें हमारा लर्निंग थियोरी एंड, तो ये तो आई थिंक, आई मीन, so in this the homeschooling is able to fulfill certain needs and perhaps is not able to fulfill certain needs. Like one of the needs that a child has is a peer group, right? Peer environment. We learn in groups. तो बच्चे को और बच्चे चाहिए होते हैं फॉर देयर फ्रेंडशिप, फॉर दोज एस्पेक्ट्स टू मैच्योर, उन भावों को डेवलप करने के लिए. So in the home environment, I would believe that there are certain advantages. Of course, if the child is just at home, then it is picking up the behavioral aspects without the content, just by seeing what the father does, what the mother does. In the environment, if you look at the negatives in the learning theory and in the learning environment, which was number 4, and then let us say the educator is part of the learning environment, and then we have number 5. So we don't want fear, we don't want competition, okay, and we want to go beyond just memorization, but memory has to be a part. I mean, मुझे जीवन ज्ञान हो गया, I understand myself and I am not able to recall how many activities I have. तो वो communication में भी problem है. So memory has to be a part. So the lacuna in today's education is really, it's focusing only on rote. It is focused on some structures in physics, chemistry, bio, zoology, and of course mathematics to make sense of all of this, right? So we are using maths to understand reality, really, yeah. And in memory, if you see, we are having the subjects. In behavioral, we have, let us say, history and sociology, yeah. And then in business, we have economics. So that will kind of, economics is also, let's say, behavioral science. It's a humanities subject. So so in homeschooling, I think what the advantage is, in the learning environment, you're getting free of fear and competition. We are getting them free of this. But if you're teaching them at home, then perhaps our delivery system is better. So in the pedagogy, for example, see, do, and learn, and also another, aspect of pedagogy would be concept-oriented teaching or learning. So if the school is focusing on only a rote-based mathematics, which is a problem in the Indian system today, then you find that a lot of people have worked on how do you teach mathematics. So a lot of alternative schools, so to speak, are not able to provide an alternative vision of education. Obviously, because ज्ञान के बिना आ नहीं सकता है वो. They're not able to provide the other areas, which is the spiritual and the behavioral, like in the school that my daughter goes to, but they're able to teach mathematics, chemistry, etc. in a more interesting way for the child, which is more, seeing and doing based and concept oriented based. But that's a problem with the Indian system. My friends in UK, etc., say that the schools there are not that bad. They're actually good. My my friend sends his children to a UK government school. So, this can be expanded. I just put down whatever is coming to my mind right now, and now we can tick off what homeschooling is able to do, what it's not able to do, what conventional schooling is able to do, but what it's not able to do. The picture really has to be more wholesome. So conventional schooling is excelling at this. I mean, these are the people who are preparing our laptops and making the next round of inventions, but we can't see the larger picture of where it has to fit in. Yeah, and then of course the whole question of ethics, etc., will also come under the behavioral dimension. So that comes under Swabhav Dharma. If the Roop Gun ho gaya, we'll have to look at Swabhav Dharma in the spiritual aspect. So the end purpose of, how do you teach ethics? How do you make somebody honest? Every MBA school has a subject on ethics. और बाहर जाके फ्रॉड करता है वो. One of the founding members of one of India's best business schools, Indian School of Business, gentleman by name Rajat Gupta. IIT Delhi, IIM Ahmedabad, Harvard Business School, है ना, founding, was jailed for leaking out uh, tips on the future movement of the Goldman Sachs stock, which is one of the world's largest investment banking companies, to a guy called Rajaratnam from Sri Lanka, was caught because the FBI did wiretapping and went to jail. So ये जो inner दृष्टि change है इधर, जीवन self ability, another thing we can write is दृष्टि परिवर्तन. So what content will we give for दृष्टि परिवर्तन? उसमें तो फिर पेरेंट्स का भी रोल आएगा ना. एजुकेटर्स रोल इज आल्सो पेरेंट्स. So we'll have to really, I think, do some whatever thinking, serious thinking on this. So what is the parents' role in the Drishti Parivartan? What is the educators of the school environment role? What should the school environment be like so that it is behaviorally fulfilled? It's a tall order. So if this is the way it's supposed to be, and आज का school किधर है? It looks like a lathe machine. lathe machine पता है जिसमें कटिंग करते हैं. So conventional school तो lathe machine लगता है. So yeah, but if there is no choice, what would you do? You send your child there, and at home keep it free of this. घर पे उसको बोल दो, it's okay. But it needs this peer environment. It needs those friends, and it needs also in today's world. So what I've described here is this ऊपर का part, यथार्थ, वस्तुगत सत्य. Now I have a child, I believe in this. But see, today even we don't have the content for this. ये तो मैंने आपको theoretical, मतलब ये philosophy of education है. And content development तो अभी हो रहा है. And you have to get teachers ready. You have to build a school. In our group we run 2 schools. My friends in our group, as in people who are associated with, one started as a pure and sure school in which the educator will not take any salary and do the shiksha as a thing, and the content will be only this behavioral and intellectual swabhav dharm part. No physics, chemistry, mathematics, nothing. Okay, they ran that for a few years and then they realized that they have to bring it in. So they brought it in. We have another school which is running only physics, chemistry, mathematics, but without scolding the children. Okay, so we have 2 options. We saw no this, no physics, chemistry, mathematics, and only this. It didn't work. And for XYZ reasons, of course, parental pressure, students, the teachers themselves got cut. The other was, we'll teach this conventional school, no grand learning, thoda sa peer teaching kiya. In the learning theory, in the learning pedagogy, one of the things that people do is peer based learning. So the 8th standard child teaches a 6th standard child. वो बच्चा is more keen to learn from its own senior. वो teacher से डरता है, सो जाता है. You see, my daughter, if I make her sit and I try to teach her, she runs. But if Janvi teaches her, she's all yours. Pura pee leti ho. She'll learn very. So if we can get children who are 3 years older, so this is now child psychology. And that's how the child. So that really comes under learning theory and pedagogy. So one of the techniques that can be really used is peer learning, peer teaching actually. Gurukula method also. किया ही है. The older boys will teach the chanting to the younger boys. वही है. So some parts, so we'll have to then pick and choose. So when we moved back to Pune 3 years ago, when we had to move back, and I was wondering where to put my child, I said, okay, let me send her to a place that is behaviorally safe. So we found this Waldorf school, and my daughter is able to go and sit on the teacher's lap, eat from the teacher's tiffin, share the tiffin with the teacher. So the home environment and the school behavioral environment is exactly the same. I know that they will not be able to teach physics. She is in grade 2. Grade 2 na? आधा हो गया. And she, I think, is just starting multiplication division. आधा भूल गया तो उसको आता ही नहीं है. She doesn't get any homework. Okay. And that day when I asked her, what was your main lesson today? She said, we made papdi chaat. And the school charges us 12,000 a month. And we have to send the ingredients also for papdi chaat. 12,000 per month, and when they're in the further cooking class, we have to send the butter and the papdi, and they are not providing that material also. And it is run by an educationist couple who are serious about education. That is the cost of running a school in Pune, because whatever. Now there is no way. See, because if you have a very serious educator but who has lava drishti, now what will you do? अभी ये combination तो मुश्किल है, but so it is more a behavioral based education. They use this IGCSE method up to grade. I think 7th तक they don't have any exams. ऐसा कुछ है. Till grade 7 no examination. 8, 9, 10 they'll prepare you for this bottom world, for the Vastu Sthiti Satya, because the world runs on examination. But definitely they will not be able to clear NEET and JEE. Chance ही नहीं है. Because the skills and speed. So the current education system is actually doing very well. It is excelling at producing children for our target, which is NEET and JEE. And creating those kind of high-tech engineers and high-tech surgeons. But that is part of the story. We need the surgeons. See, if you and I have a cataract, we need a surgeon. We can't go to a village quack. He'll ruin our eyes. नहीं, हमको कैटरेक्ट सर्जरी करना तो किसके पास जाएंगे? जो नीट निकाल के सर्जरी किया या जो गांव में सीखा. Where will we go? I'm not trusting my eyes to the guy in the village. No way. He's full of sepsis. You get septic, not full of sepsis. So the challenge seems to be really that when we see the occupation side of the human, ये तो education हो गया. And now if you take occupations and look at really the occupations that the world needs, yeah, it's going to take a very smart set of minds to sit together and say that, 5 years from now, we need, I don't know, maybe in a district, we need 5,000 engineers. Okay? So we go back to grade 7 and assess who are those kids who want to do engineering, and we teach them differential calculus. And who are those children who want to become a doctor, and we teach them, I don't know, microbiology. And who are those children who just want to run a dhaba, and we tell them, you don't need to learn mathematics, you want to run a dhaba. तभी तो होगा ना. The problem today also is that we don't know. So you have to teach everybody that. So the skill, the final occupation, उसको जो job लेना है, that will dictate some of the subjects in grade 11 and 12. Up to 10, maybe we can run this. So it may also mean that we run a 18-year-old education instead of 16 years या 19 years. क्या जल्दी है? थोड़ा देर से शादी करेगा. 10 तक सबको एक ही पढ़ाओ. Then the child is 16. Then you ask him and the parents, what do you think is more suited for? बोलता मेरा बेटा ना, he is not interested in mathematics. उसको ये भी नहीं आता है. उसको जीवन अच्छा लगता है. He wants to write books on जीवन क्रिया. ठीक है भाई, तेरे को mathematics माफ सब माफ. You take literature stream. Something like that. My son loves cooking. He wants to open a dhaba. सब छोड़ दे, differential calculus कुछ नहीं. You don't need anything. Maybe at age 16 or 18, we need a kind of questionnaire for the parents and the child. Have some tests to assess what occupation is it more suited for. But who knows when that world will come. And who knows. But it should come, because that's the only answer. Right now it is a massacre, especially in India. कुछ नहीं, wait. Into business. Yeah. No, you can. That's the thing. No, like for example, railways. He's from the railways. Now, if you want railways, you need signaling. You need track maintenance. You need forecasting abilities. You need engine manufacturing, engine maintenance. It's a lot of complex stuff. If you want to run your engine on electricity, you have to be able to develop that kind of horsepower. You need that calculation. Who'll do it? The world is not going back to the horse cart era, very clearly. We can't be educating our children for a world that used to exist 2000 years ago. Materially, not spiritually. The world has moved on materially, yeah, and technologically, and it's only going to move forward. We're not going to forget how to make a camera. We'll only keep making it smaller and smaller. And maybe, not have such a bad band which is like poking my temple eye. I wish somebody like made it a little sweet. ये दबाता है. So we want an, so there are these smaller ones that you can put in your ear and it just comes out, but it's costlier. So as technology improves and with economies of scale, we'll be able to get that mic at this price. So 20 years from now, we'll be having that little mic. So that has to happen. The internet is part of our lives now. It's never going to go back. So you need internet protocols. You need better speeds. All that has to happen. You need those pipelines. We need wireless telephony. Huh? Yeah. नहीं वही तो एजुकेशन का भाग जो व्यवहार के लिए टू मेक द चाइल्ड बिहेवियरली इक्विप्ड, intellectually equipped, socially equipped, and have spiritually equipped with an integral view. This is one packet to produce a human being, a holistic human being, to the extent that child was able to do. Because remember, all the jivans that are coming to education are not the same, grade. Some will just stop and they'll still be fine. They'll be on the right side of behavior, on the right side of law. पूर्व प्रवृत्ति अलग होगा. So now व्यवसाय is a different packet. अभी क्या हो गया है कि we started somewhere with education and then व्यवसाय started defining and dictating our education content. उसको नौकरी मिलेगा कि नहीं is now deciding the content in grade 8. We're working backwards. But if you're able to delineate this, if the family doesn't have stress of व्यवसाय, if you are running a home enterprise, if you are born into a world where you're going to do what your parents anyways did, and you don't have to go out and look for a job. Let's say I have I don't know, we know somebody in Raipur who manufactures transformers, and if I'm his son and I get this holistic view of life, now I don't want to run to Boston. I know that my requirements will be fulfilled in my house because I now have that understanding, that holistic view. I'm going to join my father's, transformer line of work. Why would I do an MBA and go and work in a global finance job? उसका जो सुख मिलने वाला है वो मुझे यहाँ मिलेगा, इसकी क्लैरिटी मिल गई ना, तो मैं इधर ही रहूंगा. ऑक्यूपेशन को डिजाइन करना बहुत लंबा काम है. एक बार मैंने ट्राई किया था, बहुत टाइम लगता है. There are, let us say, 500 types of things you use. What kind of technologies you need? What are the roles you need? In every technology, you need somebody to do the R&D. You need somebody to do the piloting. You need somebody to do the production. You need somebody to do the maintenance. You need somebody to do the transport. This village needs a transformer. It is not manufactured. It has to come from Nasik. Somebody has to transport it. So there will be a guy doing the so finally you end up with the world the way it is. Only with the right sense. कौन मेंटेन करेगा? अभी जैसा हमारा माइक काम करना बंद कर दे, हम वी वर ऑल स्टेयरिंग एट द, वी डिडंट नो व्हिच प्रिंट टू, हमको ये भी नहीं पता कौन सा ऊपर जाता है कौन सा नीचे आता है. Naushad has to come from 20 kilometers to do it. So you need a Naushad in tomorrow's world. You need that mixer, and if the circuit fries, you need somebody to give it the new circuit. अंदर circuit है ना उसका, mixer circuit है पूरा, transistors है. वो माइक ले लीजिए तो आवाज.
We are putting the students into various filtration phases, just like joint entrance examination, and the people who qualify, they are being sent for the engineering study or medical study, something like that, professional. So in the similar way, maybe up to the level of 10, we can give the best package to all the students, including this content.
Yeah.
So that will be the best material for everyone, so that they can compete in the subsequent competitive examination, and those who qualify for this particular input, they will be sent for the special education.
उल्टा मतलब basically we say this is the foundation. अभी आजकल they use the word foundation course, foundation education for a human being. आपने एक पैकेट बनाई. Don't worry about when he has to graduate. No monetary pressure. Ground up you start. Develop the content, the textbooks, the teacher training manual, the learning theory, the environment, the pedagogical methods. Huge thing. Okay. Because as you go higher, you'll get sociology, psychology, you'll get all those subjects. है ना? and then you say now is your time to choose your व्यवसायिक जीवन. तुम अभी मानव योग्य कंटेंट तुम्हारे अंदर आ गया है, बाकी अभी नो यू हैव टू डू द मनन. फाइनली उसी को समझना है ना, हमारे चिल्लाने से नहीं समझेगा. So the child may have लाभ वृत्ति and it has learned न्याय. Now it has to change its लाभ to न्याय. वो तो उसको करना पड़ेगा ना. I cannot do it for it as an educator. I हम सत्य का सूचना दे सकते हैं. सत्य की जिज्ञासा कैसा आएगा उसमें? सत्य की जो जिज्ञासा है, the enquiry for the truth has to come in it. नहीं तो it will not, that प्रत्यावर्तन will not happen in that जीवन. So the only thing is it will not go in the opposite direction. There will be no beer bar, so it will not run there. It will not go into ganja. It will not go into prostitution. ये नहीं होगा. So now you basically have a foundation course, which let us say is our grade 12 or grade 14. Hmm? And now you say now is time for you to decide what is going to be your occupation. These are the occupations that this district needs. We are foreseeing requirement in this area. Take your pick. You want radar communication? Yeah. 5 years will teach you differential calculus, this, that, you can do radar communication. Actually, also the thing is a lot of our education today, all the math, like even when I think of my engineering, it was not really engineering education. I mean, it's very few people actually do design. I was trained to do systems design, but you don't get to do system design. Somebody has already designed it, you're just maintaining it. So everybody need not go through this stuff. Like I learned how to design transformers. We used to do transformer design. But the thing is, you don't do transformer design because people have already designed the transformer, just manufacturing it. So all the jobs can actually be for manufacturing. You learn how to manufacture it. You see, he said his son is studying computer science. Engineering, that's a misnomer. How can computer science be engineering? If you're studying the science of computers, it's BSc. The degree itself is wrong. Degree का नाम ही गलत है. If you're studying computer science, you have to study MSc computer science because master of science है वो. You are mastering the science of how computers work. If you want to engineer a system using computer systems, you don't have to learn all that because you don't use it. You learn how chips work, kernels work. So ये hodgepodge हो गया है. I mean, we want to give students the ability to work in industry. At the same time, we want their intellect to develop. We think they should also know mathematics. I mean, think of who is framing the education system? Pashu Manav or Manvitapur Manav? Pashu वो क्या सोच पा रहा है? उसको क्या दिखता है? सब कॉपी पेस्ट है. इंडियन सिस्टम इतना हालत खराब है. We have no ingenuity in thinking. Chhattisgarh syllabus law, it is copying Central Board. Central Board law, they are copying somebody else. They are copying Oxford. Oxford started with copying the Bible. Yeah. Cool, घूम पे it ends up in स्थिति बहुत खराब है. अभी देखिए नया एनईपी आया है. नया एनईपी व्हाट इज इट ट्राइंग टू डू? इट्स ट्राइंग टू टेक स्टफ फ्रॉम आवर पास्ट एंड पुट इट इन.
भैया
अभी इस पे युद्ध चलेगा, है ना. चार 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 क्या है? पुरुषार्थ को लगाया, अभी लगाया ना. धर्म अर्थ काम मोक्ष को डाल दिया एजुकेशन में. इट मेक्स अ लॉट ऑफ सेंस. बट द थिंग इज इफ यू वांट टू टीच moksha, we have to agree on what is moksha. Indian society is under dispute of what is moksha.
भैया
The need for moksha is clear, but what is moksha is in dispute. We are fighting over it. We are fragmented, right? We don't have any one view of what is moksha.
भैया एक शेयरिंग है कि जो
He is in education. Education, he is in Azim Premji University.
so when I passed 10th exam, the same issue was there in front of me, that what should I take up. And at that time and right now also there are this career assessment test, mostly by career counselors. They have a format that you have to take, and they give you a tentative options that
Hmm.
and there is some logic behind it. So it gives a little clarity that, oh, the last option, at least that is not for me.
Yeah.
So in that way, the the problem is twofold. One is that I'm confused about what all I can do, but at the same time, what all is really interested, like what I am really interested into.
Yeah.
So we will have to look at both, right?
Yeah. And see, even when we talk of interest, there are these different, uh, I mean, this is what you would call as foundational content, right? Till here. Uh, Again, it's a little untidy, but it's there. If you look at interest, when you say now, if this becomes foundation course, correct? This becomes your foundation content, or what is driving the foundation content, and there is a unified theory of what is existence, because you need a unified theory of this. If you get a fragmented theory, it will be bits and pieces. You need a darshan that is able to bring it together, है ना? अस्तित्व से लेकर व्यवसाय तक पूरा you need a this educator needs to have that unified view. Neither they will not be able to deliver that content. We can stitch the content in a unified way. Now you need व्यवसाय शिक्षा, occupational education को अलग से लेना पड़ेगा, है ना? Occupation का मतलब you need to make a living. Now इसमें males and females को अलग रखना पड़ेगा. If males and females are equal and the females elect that occupation wise I am better off within the house, because that is the most important part of occupation, half the problem solved. Not gender bias. Gender तो equal है, हो गया. ज्ञान दोनों को साथ में है. Now we have the freedom to choose. What am I more suited for? Baba, my child needs me at home. Why should I go outside the house? है ना? तुम जाओ. तो now you have interest on आपका किसमें रुचि है ना? आप साबुन बनाएंगे, आपको प्राइमरी प्रोडक्शन करना है, सेकेंडरी प्रोडक्शन करना है, यू वांट टू डू टर्शियरी प्रोडक्शन, यू वांट टू डू हाई एंड प्रोडक्शन, यू वांट टू डू मेंटेनेंस एक्टिविटीज, एंड व्हाट आर द ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल? इसका मैच करना पड़ेगा, राइट? एंड नाउ व्हाट इज द कैपेबिलिटी दैट आई नीड, राइट? व्हाट आर द स्किल्स आई नीड टू डेवलप? So if my interest, let's say I'm after getting all this foundation course and knowing what is life and the meaning and purpose of life, I suddenly find electricity seems to really interest me, and I want to work on solutions where these bulbs can become, whatever, or I just want to maintain bulbs. I'm happy just being an electrician. There is the opening for 500 electricians in the district or the state. I'll pick up that skill and do it. It's not my identity anymore. मेरा identity, मेरा learning, intelligence सब हो गया है. This is just to run the house, to bring, जो English में बोलते हैं, bread and butter to the table, including all the allied expenses. We don't have this segregation. अभी क्या हो गया? उल्टा हो गया. Options available is actually the demand in the industry. Industry में demand के engineer, doctor. That pressure works backwards into the education system and the content. That drives a learning theory which has to be fearful and competition, because there are fewer jobs there and you want to filter the people, you want only the best there. So pura pipe has been designed from here, ulta, that the Brits did like 100 years ago. But we will need the guts to do this, and we need to have the confidence that we won't die if we segregate these two. So uske liye we have to also kind of grow within to say, okay, there is no fear of death. Otherwise you grow up with the fear of death. And the fear of examination, the fear of not passing engineering, not getting a job and losing our job is almost like the fear of death. And it never goes. We know people who work in the best of companies in the world, earning extremely well. And there is an underlying, when you talk to them, you realize they have this underlying fear that they can get laid off any day. वो भय गया नहीं, he just pushed it into the back burner. So we've not addressed that psychological fear. It has to be addressed psychologically. भय मुक्ति तो अंदर होगा ना, बाहर भी होना चाहिए. So if we do this, आप जो कह रहे थे, ये career counseling can happen here. We give a questionnaire and then the parents and the educators sit down and decide your child seems to be more suitable for the cloth industry. मतलब doing something with his hands. I don't think it can design transformers, or it doesn't seem to want to dirty its hands in the transformer oil in maintaining it. उसका प्रेफरेंस होगा. ये क्या करेगी क्या पता. नहीं पता. हाँ, so तो ये वाला तो सब बच्चों को अच्छा लगता है, you know, I mean helping out and this has become complicated because the world has gone away from an agrarian economy. Agrarian economy में problem था ही नहीं. Then our consumption footprint was so minimal that the agrarian output was enough to fulfill our needs. We didn't have this dilemma. But now that world is gone, it's not coming back. Tractors are here to stay. And somebody has to make the tractors. We're not going back to the bullock cart. I mean, not for the next 500 years. I don't know what will happen after 500 or 1000 years. If everybody becomes a Devmana, maybe they'll dump everything and go back, saying the bullock cart was better. But till then, yeah. You know, up to the joint director level, yeah. ये तो थियरी है, इसको डेवलप करके करना कितना, एंड देन ट्रांजिशन कंटेंट बनाना पड़ेगा. लाइक गौरी, माय वाइफ, एंड यू नो, अंडर द गाइडेंस ऑफ वन ऑफ आवर सीनियर फ्रेंड्स, are trying to develop a transition content, you know, really transitioning from today's world to the other one. Nagaraji is given a curriculum for this Chetna Vikas Mulya Shiksha, but it deals only with the Jivan Gyan part and the behavioral Shiksha. It doesn't address the need for material education. It deals with the Adhyatmik, the Bodhik and the Vyavaharik necessity, but it's just a curriculum. Then you have to know how to write the content. I was part of a content writing team. We try to develop textbooks from grade 1 to 10. So I was part of the team that wrote from 1 to 5, from 15 years ago. And we realized that the children just can't read that. What we had written as children's textbooks turned out to be teacher's manual because it was so complex. So, you know, yeah. Education ho gaya. We want to do education tomorrow. आज ही हो गया शिक्षा. तो रोक ले क्या? I think these people are eager to come and start their jig. हाँ, कुछ किया है, बच्चे एक्साइटेड है. चलिए कल मिलते हैं.